utilize these solutions to streamline processes and save you some time. So I'm introducing myself. I'm Joelle Guinette. I'm the Territory Sales Manager for Eastern Canada for Desso Systems, specifically responsible for SOLIDWORKS in the territory. With me is Michel Cloutier, who has been with SOLIDWORKS for over 12 years. He's the Territory Technical Manager, and he'll be jumping in just a few minutes to take you through this wonderful information regarding these lovely solutions that we have that are hopefully going to open some lights and some possibilities for your company. So we've got topics that we have done webinars on before, and in the past they were very much separate because they were very much separate in terms of workflow. And at SOLIDWORKS we have a number of things that we try and do, and if you've seen me introduce webinars before or any other occasions, you've heard this from me before, which is SOLIDWORKS trying to help companies do things in parallel is one thing, so that you're not waiting for information to get to the next step and the next step. Trying to parallel these types of activities to save the company time and get to market faster is one thing we try and do. The other thing is that every step that you're trying to do and every step you're trying to that you have to go through in your design process, getting your product from concept to manufacturing, is trying to help you make each of these as quick and as efficient as possible, or automated if possible. And inspection is a perfect example of this, and you'll see that in the first information at the beginning that Michelle is going to share with you. And the other thing that we try and do is how to reutilize that 3D model that your company spends so much time and investment on to create, which is often how you differentiate yourself in the quality of your product and how quickly you can generate possibly unique products. And we want to make sure that we're helping you along the way use that 3D information more and more and more so that you can get the most out of it. So MBD is a perfect example of that. And the added advantage with 2018 for these products is that they work together now. So this is a great new functionality for us. We love this one. We wanted to take some time to share with you. So not that we're not going to show some inspection and some MBD. We're going to give you a flavor of what those are, but we're going to reference you back to the individual webinars for those, which Michelle would introduce in a few minutes. But we want to show you how these can now work together and make the flow even better. Let's put it that way. So put it all in one nice track. And without further ado, I'm going to transfer this over to you, Michelle. You've got the chat box on the right-hand side. I think Michelle has sent a little message there saying that if you want to write any questions, please use it, and that there's also some handouts that you can download. Please don't hesitate. I'm going to come back at the end to wrap this up, and we'll go from there. So for now, off to you, Michelle.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Joelle. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about inspection and MBD. So before we actually jump into the topic, I'd like to ask you if you know this person, pretty influential entrepreneur in the U.S., very inclined to technology. If you don't recognize him, maybe you've heard of the SpaceX program, which is to send rockets, but get the rocket to land back on the Earth. If you still haven't heard of the SpaceX program, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Tesla, the electric cars. And this is the founder of the SpaceX program, founder of Tesla, Elon Musk. And why I'm bringing this up is that Elon has a nice saying and says that, constantly think about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. And I think this applies really well to this topic today. Think about what you've done, inspection, documents, PPAP, first article inspection report, and now think of how you could be doing it better. So keep that in mind. I think that's going to be really appropriate for the topic today. Speaking of what we are going to discuss today, so I got a little agenda, and really to understand how MBD can help the inspection process, I think we have to start with what is the inspection process. So I'm going to start by simply talking briefly about what's the traditional inspection process. If you're not familiar with MBD, I'm going to touch on base on that as well. Really short introduction, because really what I want to show is how MBD can help the inspection process, and we're going to get to that. Furthermore, we're going to talk about if you're getting MBD information or data from your customers, what to do with them, because there's a number of things we can do now, especially with 2018. In SOLIDWORKS 2018, and then how we can manage revisions of inspection reports and how to deal with new documents that have to be revised. So let's start with the first things, which is the traditional inspection process. Now, what does the traditional inspection process looks like? So let's say I have this drawing, this 2D drawing, and I want to create a first article inspection report to do the inspection of this document. So the traditional process is that we're going to go ahead and balloon the drawing, mark up all the dimensions that need to be inspected. I'm going to likely, pull out an Excel spreadsheet, start, transposing those balloons into the Excel spreadsheet. Then I also need to fill in the nominal values indicated on the drawing, but then I also need to calculate, what's the upper and lower limit for each of those dimensions and values. So now, I've done this for this single view. Mind you that you have to take care of the whole drawing as well. So I've done this for just a view of a drawing. Now I have to do this for the whole drawing. And in fact, if you're doing this traditionally and using the traditional manual process, it actually might look like this. This is actually one of my colleagues, Steve Fick, that actually filmed himself doing this process the good old way. So he's inside of SOLIDWORKS. He's going to be adding balloons manually. Fast forward a bit, jumps into Excel, starts typing in all of this information. It's all retyping, really, typing things, over again inside the Excel spreadsheet, uses the calculator to calculate the upper lower limits of all of those nominal values with the tolerances. Fast forward that a little bit furthermore, completes the Excel spreadsheet, and there you have your Excel spreadsheet, your report ready for the inspection process. Now, again, when you look at this, you realize a couple things. First of all, it's a very manual process. It's very manual labor intensive. So you have to do things manually, circle the, create the balloon, go into Excel, and everything there's a lot of manual labor put into it. There's also a lot of error, possibly that can happen. A typo when you type in your SOLIDWORKS value, you missed, a dimension, you missed something. So it's very error prone, but also it's very time consuming as well. In fact, for this example, Steve took, about an hour to do a fairly simple drawing and to transpose everything ready for the first article inspection report. So think about that. Spending an hour just to fill in an Excel spreadsheet, and obviously what's time consuming is also costly. You're paying your employee to do that, and it just costs money to do it. Now, this is the traditional inspection process, the manual traditional inspection process. Now with SOLIDWORKS Inspection, you can automate a lot of that. Actually, this is the same process using SOLIDWORKS Inspection. It's not fast-forwarded. It's actually recorded live. You create a new report. You fill in the information. You don't have to type anything because everything is already in the properties of your SOLIDWORKS drawings. So I'm doing all of this within SOLIDWORKS itself, within the SOLIDWORKS drawing environment. Once I select all the dimensions I want to capture, I hit go. And then SOLIDWORKS Inspection simply goes away and goes at it and populates all the balloons, captures all the information. The last thing I need to do really is say, okay, I'm ready to export my Excel spreadsheet. And there you have it. That's your Excel spreadsheet. So with SOLIDWORKS Inspection, you can, of course, immensely automate this process, but it's still a traditional process. So, I don't want to talk too much about the traditional inspection process, the 2D-based, 2D drawing-based inspection process. I actually covered that, last year in another webinar. So, yeah, I'm putting the link there. If you don't have time, or if you missed, grabbing the QR code for that, just send me an email. I'll send you the link via email. But what we learned in this webinar is that, using SOLIDWORKS Inspection, you can reduce your first article inspection report creation by about 90%, which is awesome. It's tremendous. But at the end of the day, it's still a traditional inspection process, in the sense that you start, modeling parts inside of SOLIDWORKS, then you create a 2D drawing, and you cannot start anything before you've actually created a 2D drawing, because you're basing your inspection process off of the 2D drawing, right? So you cannot skip steps there. You really have to go in that order. So keep that in mind. Whether it's manual or it's automatic using SOLIDWORKS Inspection, it's still a traditional inspection process in its wide sense. Now let's talk a little bit about MBD. So we're shifting gears. Now we're going to talk about MBD, just because some people out there might not know what MBD, or have not been exposed to MBD yet. So what is MBD? First of all, MBD means model-based definition. We then came up with this acronym. It's an industry-wide acronym, and you may have heard it already somewhere else. But really, what does it mean? Let's say I have this part, and I want to manufacture this part right there. What's going to be the process? Well, first, I'm going to, it's going to start inside of SOLIDWORKS or another 3D CAD modeling tool, and I'm going to model the part. Now, the model alone is not sufficient, because I need some information along with that. I need some dimensions, I need some tolerances, maybe surface finish, GD&T. So I need some information to say how I want this to be manufactured, and this information is going to actually affect the manufacturing process. And to do that, right, the process is, well, you create a 2D drawing, and on the 2D drawing, that's where you put all this information. And you see here an example. You got dimensions, hole callouts, you got GD&T, positional, perpendicular, etc. All this information is hosted on the 2D drawing currently, the traditional process. The idea with MBD is, instead of having to create a separate file to host all this information, why not just put it into the 3D model itself and host all the critical information in the 3D model itself? And when we do that, we start talking about another acronym, Product Manufacturing Information. Really what PMI are, it's simply the information that's usually on a drawing that now you host on the 3D model. Dimensions, tolerances, surface finish, even bill of materials if it's an assembly. So in a sense, that's what MBD is. Now, let me show you a little bit about SOLIDWORKS MBD and how we can actually do that inside of SOLIDWORKS. So I'm going to switch over here inside of SOLIDWORKS. I'm going to walk through this example here where I have this part, and I want to start documenting in 3D the dimensions and tolerances. So the first step is going to do, when you're looking at this, you really have to look at this from the manufacturing process. And from the manufacturing process, you start defining datums. So I'm going to say this is my datum A, and then I'm going to simply zoom into this area. This cylindrical face is going to be my datum B. Now for this example, 2 datums good. And then I'm going to say, what do I want to actually scope out in my tolerances? So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to use this circular surface here, and that's going to be a cylinder. I'm going to use this hole right there. I also want to define this face right here as well. That's going to be, again, another cylindrical face. And as soon as I can pick a few more, but for now, let's just say okay. And as I do that, really quickly, I start seeing that 3D annotation on my model. So this is my real GD&T information. Now, I'm not quite done with this yet. I need some more information. So now I can start and go manually at it. So for example, I want to define the thickness between the back face and this surface right there. So I'm going to say, I'm going to dimension this right there. I'm going to do the same thing from the face here to the front face right there, dimension that. I want to add a depth control as well from this face here, maybe to the face right over here, and the same thing from here to this face. So I simply go at dimensioning, as I'm used to, but I dimension that in my 3D model. So very quickly, I got this information. One thing I could probably add to this that might make sense is that I want to define the chamfer here. So I'm going to say I want a size dimension right over here and drop it like so. So far, I've toleranced my model, but with MBD, you can go a step further and you can say, okay, how do I want to organize all of that information? So first, we're used to having views inside of a 2D drawing, and we can create basically the same approach on a 3D model. So I'm going to be capturing these views simply to help me organize this information a little bit better. Here, let's go ahead and activate the top view. Here to highlight the chamfer here, that's kind of a little difficult to see. Probably a good idea, after I capture my top view, would be to maybe create a section view that would actually go into the part and show, at a certain depth, that chamfer really good. So if I do that real quick, I'll say okay to that. Now I can see my chamfer and I could update or recapture this view. We'll do a last one here real quick. I'm going to activate the right view. Again, I'm going to capture this. And like I've done before, I like to have section views to just help me understand how this part is made and better illustrate all of this annotation. So very quickly, I'm able to capture all of this information just like that. So now I've got, a couple of views. I've got my front view with this information, the top view, the right view, and I can simply cycle through all of these. One thing I like to highlight as well is the tolerance status check. So very quickly, I got a color code that shows what machining features have been tolerant on this model. And I can see that all my critical machining features, the one that needs a precise fit and perform an actual function, are colored green. So for now, I couldn't leave it like this. I don't need to detail everything, but I'm just detailing the most important critical information. So the idea with MBD, and again, I didn't want to spend too much time because, again, we've done another webinar last year on SOLIDWORKS MBD alone, where we spent about 40-45 minutes just to talk about MBD. But it's the idea behind MBD is really to help reduce drawing creation, and not only creation, but dependence on 2D drawings as well. So here's the link. Again, if you don't have time to capture this or get the link, send me an email. I'll share that with you, no problem. But the idea with MBD, like I said, is to reduce the dependence on 2D drawings. So now we've talked about, SOLIDWORKS Inspection, the traditional process, the 2D-based approach to inspection, and now we saw another product, SOLIDWORKS MBD, where you basically host the information typically found on a 2D drawing, you put that on a 3D model. So now the big question, that's where I'm getting to tie the knot between these two things, is how can MBD help the inspection process? Well, the traditional inspection process is still a traditional process. We saw that earlier. It's based off of 2D drawing. You have to do a 2D drawing to get to the inspection process, to get to do your inspection report. But with the MBD approach to the inspection process, we just learned that all of that 2D annotation can really be hosted on the 3D model directly. So now it begs the question, why do I need a 2D drawing? Or maybe I don't need a 2D drawing anymore. And that's exactly the idea. Because you have all this information captured on your 3D model, why not just take that information and create your inspection report based off the 3D model information? And that's exactly what I'm going to show you. This is really big, with regards to MBD and Inspection 2018, and that's one of the biggest, in my sense, enhancements in 2018. So let's go ahead and take a look how we would do that inside of SOLIDWORKS 2018. So going back to SOLIDWORKS 2018, I got this part here, and I'm ready to do the inspection. You see here, this one actually has a little bit more detail to it, more information. But now I'm ready to do the inspection. Very easily, on the top here, I now have a tab inside my SOLIDWORKS parts or assemblies, and then I want to create a new inspection project. I'm going to use a default template, click OK to that, and now I'm going to define some information, but really this is more for reference. Now the beauty is that I've already have this information inside of my SOLIDWORKS properties. So it's a simple double click. That's my part number, what's my revision, that's my revision, and there we go. Now you can define some more information down here, how you want this to be ballooned, even some sampling information can be defined right there. Next step is going to define what I actually want to be ballooned in my inspection document. So now I can select, the types of dimensions, notes, GD&T, callouts, etc. When I'm happy with that, I simply click OK, and now I let SOLIDWORKS Inspection create and balloon all that information, gather all that information on my 3D model. So very quickly, I'm actually already done here, and very quickly I've gathered all the information. And if we take a look at maybe some of them, and we go at here, let's go take a look at balloon number 8 and expand that a little bit, you'll see the information. So for example, I've got my balloon number 8, that's 22 millimeter with a positional GD&T attached to it. It understood, SOLIDWORKS Inspection understood the diameter, the unit, it is a diameter, the dimension, but you see here, it actually went ahead and captured the plus minus, and then captured and calculated for me the upper and lower limit for this dimension. And mind you, it did that for all of the dimensions on this model. So now the step is very simple. I want to export my Excel spreadsheet to create my article inspection report. I'm going to, from my template, select which I want to use. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to click OK to that and actually overwrite my existing report I've done earlier today. Save that, say yes to overwrite. And in the matter of a second or two, I've got my full inspection report ready to go. And this is an Excel spreadsheet. So from this time on, you can simply send the Excel spreadsheet to your quality engineer. And now he can simply go ahead and measure on it. And also there's some color code built into it. So if you start typing in your values, if you're within tolerance, it'll show green. If it's out of tolerance, it'll show red. So just some visual cues when you start filling in the information and measuring the actual values for all of these. Now, sending the Excel spreadsheet alone might not be sufficient. You probably want to have your quality engineer be able to actually view where the balloons are on this model. Well, one of the options to do that, there's actually a few. We can export 2D PDF, a 3D PDF. Here, let's go ahead and export an e-drawing. And again, I'm going to override the existing one, click OK to that, and it's going to capture my e-drawing. And then we're going to take a look at that e-drawing. So now you have a lightweight e-drawing model that you can send down to the shop floor. You'll notice that I have my views here, so I can navigate in my views with all the information. What's nice also about e-drawings is that when you select a dimension, it actually cross-highlights on the screen. So if you're not sure about this dimension or that dimension, you know exactly what this is for, what feature it is attached to. So it's makes everything really easy to understand all of this critical information. So that's really the idea with, how we can start to streamline the process. So, that's where MBD comes into play with regards to inspection. So you saw that you can still do the inspection the traditional method, the 2D way, but with MBD, we can basically skip over having to create a 2D drawing or delay that process. You might not, you might still need to create a drawing, but you can delay that process a little further. So the other thing too is that if I continue with this in mind, what happens if I'm getting information from my customers? So your customers might actually start to send you some MBD models, some MBD information. So if they're sending you a SOLIDWORKS part, that's great. You use SOLIDWORKS, you can do that. You just saw that. I just did it with one of the models. But what if they're sending you CATIA files, CATIA V5 files, or Pro Engineer files, or even STEP files, or other types of formats? What do you do with those? So let's see how we can tackle this task using some other files. So this time I'm going to actually go into SOLIDWORKS Inspection, the standalone. Now you saw how SOLIDWORKS works how inspection works inside of SOLIDWORKS. Let's take a look how it works if you don't have SOLIDWORKS installed or if you're getting other types of data. So using the SOLIDWORKS Inspection standalone, I'm going to create a new project and select a template, much like I've done before inside of SOLIDWORKS. And now I'm going to select what file do I want to use. So here I got a part that's actually a PTC Creo part, a .prt.9. And I'm going to open that, and it's a 3D part. It's a 3D model. So as it's opening that inside of SOLIDWORKS Inspection, you can see that I can navigate this 3D model, much like you can navigate inside of SOLIDWORKS a 3D model. But if I go into my default view here, you'll notice I have a number of dimensions. So not only the geometry comes in, but also all the tolerances, all the dimensions, they're there. So now how do I start capturing that information? Well, very simply. Inside of Inspection 2018, we now have a Smart Extract. So just by selecting the Smart Extract and selecting one of the dimensions, I'm going to zoom in over here and I'm going to select this one. I select it, and very quickly you'll see on the right hand side it actually started capturing this information. It knows it's a dimension, a diameter, it's in inches, there's one, calculated, captured the values as well. So the information is already captured, and now as I'm starting to do this, I can simply go ahead and select one at a time all my dimensions I want to capture. Again, if I zoom in into this one here, which is my balloon number 3 that we see right there, notice that it captured the tolerance of 0, -2, and then went ahead and calculated the upper and lower limit for that dimension as well. So all of that information is captured automatically. Now I'm doing this manually, but really you might want to automate this process a little bit. One thing I like to show is that as I'm doing this, I can actually hide my extracted dimension. So it's just a simpler way graphically to capture the information. So as I'm selecting, it disappears from the screen. And again, I can show them over here, but if I want to do this quick, I can simply window select the whole thing. And there we go. All the dimensions are captured. If I expand the bottom here, you'll see all the information is captured in my bill of characteristics down there. Some of the new functionality also we've added in 2018 is that now we can also define a default method of inspection based on the type of capture. So if it's a dimension, here I set it to use the CMM. If it's a GD&T, like a profile, a surface profile tolerance, things like that. I'm using an articulated arm with a probe. So all of this information just to automate the process. But at the end of the day, the thing I'm going to want to do is to create, again, my Excel spreadsheet for the inspection process. And right from here, I'm going to select which template I want to use. I'm also going to be able to define some more options. So for example, I want to capture a screen capture of the 3D dimensions on it. So very quickly, I create that Excel spreadsheet, it saves, I'm going to overwrite the old one, and in a few seconds, you'll see the new Excel spreadsheet right there. So you'll notice that this is actually the Excel document. There's a tab down the bottom that shows the 3D model, but then if I go on form page number 3, you'll notice that all the information is in my Excel spreadsheet right here. And again, now I can start filling in my information with, some controls over, like a visual cue that says, if I'm within my tolerances or without my tolerances as I'm typing in this information. Now that's all great. The other thing we can do, and from here we can export also, attach, maybe like I said earlier, I use the example of a knee drawing, but another example we can do is the actual 3D PDF of the ballooned drawing. So again, I'm going to create one right here and now. It actually opens up on my other monitor. So let me just grab this guy and move it back to this monitor so everyone can see. And now you'll notice that if I go to my default view, you'll notice that all the graphical information is there along with the balloon. So the 3D PDF could be sent or used on the quality inspection floor along with the Excel spreadsheet, and now you've got all your documentation ready to go and all the information for your inspection is there. So as a closing note, I want to talk about also the file formats, because there's a number of formats we do support with SOLIDWORKS Inspection, and I should be precise, this is Inspection 2018. We do support new 3D formats in 2018. So we support CATIA parts and assemblies, 3D XML, which is also a file CATIA can export, used in some processes, and also PTC Creo parts and assemblies. So all of those 3D formats, along, of course, with the SOLIDWORKS format, we do support. But we also support a number of 2D files, and we've added to this list this year as well. So we could support in 2017 PDF and TIFFs, but now we can support DWG, DXF, CATIA drawing, and even UGNX drawings, which are .prt extension. So really, what's the good thing here about SOLIDWORKS Inspection is whether you're still doing the traditional 2D drawing-based inspection process, or whether you want to do something different using the 3D format, SOLIDWORKS Inspection is going to be able to do that. So it just gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility with regards to the process. Most people are still doing the traditional, in the traditional way, the inspection process, the 2D-based, 2D drawing-based inspection process. And if, that's what you need, great, SOLIDWORKS Inspection can do that. But if you want to do things differently and you want to use maybe the MBD model to define, to create your inspection process and streamline the whole process, well, again, SOLIDWORKS Inspection 2018 can definitely help you do that. Now, the last thing I might want to touch on is what happens if there's a revision on my 3D model and I need to update my inspection, my first article inspection report. And you just saw me do the inspection report off of this part. What happens if I get this and customer sends me a revision and say, hey, please update your inspection process? Now the keen eye there, some of you might actually have noticed a few changes, but really the big question is what changed? And some things can be drastic, some things can be very hard to catch. maybe you just change the tolerance on the dimension. How do you, find that? You have to go through and really be careful of it. Well, SOLIDWORKS Inspection can also help you in that process. Let me show you something real quick. So going back again inside of inspection, we're going to walk through this step. I got a new revision. What do I do? Well, from my document tab here, I got the option to import a revision CAD file. I'm going to save my project before I go too far into it. And I'm going to select my revision. So this is my revision 2 file I just got from my supplier. I will say open to that. And now SOLIDWORKS Inspection is actually telling me, hey, it has detected some changes. How do you want to proceed? You want to do the automatic or the manual revision method? Well, in this case, let's go with automatic. I'll click automatic, and there we have it. Very, very quickly on the left-hand pane, I can see that there are some changes. Some were deleted, some were modified, and some are new, right? It says right here. Now, if I want to see them on the 3D model, I can simply navigate to my view here that has this PMI information, and you'll notice that there's also a color code on the screen on the dimensions, the one that has changed and the one that are different. And if I start cycling through my bill of characteristics, you'll see also some of them highlighted in orange, meaning they're changed, some in red, meaning they've actually gotten removed. So how do I go about updating this? Well, I use the automated revision processing, so I'm simply going to say OK, and you'll see that it's going to actually update my bill of characteristics with all the new information. And one of them, the last one here, item 16, wasn't there before. So you can see that it was added to my bill of characteristics right down here. So what would be the next step to do? Well, fairly easily, you can probably guess that I would simply create an Excel report, recreate my report, overwrite my 3D PDF or create a 2D PDF if I want to, and then I'd be on my way. So really, managing revisions of files and managing revisions of article inspection report is very easy. I just saw you the tool to compare the PMI in the 3D world on 3D annotation, but we also have the same tool if you're using a traditional approach, using a PDF or a 2D drawing. We also have the compare 2D drawing tool built inside of SOLIDWORKS Inspection. So it allows you to quickly update your first article inspection report. You simply say update and republish your Excel, republish your PDF file. So this is what we, I wanted to have on the table today. So we talked about what's the traditional inspection process. We talked about how SOLIDWORKS can automate that process, but it's still traditional in the sense that it's based of a 2D drawing. When we start talking about MBD, really the purpose of MBD is to reduce the dependence on those 2D drawings. You might still have to do a 2D drawing, but maybe you just need to do it a little later, and that's fine. With both these tools, now you can really streamline the inspection process. You don't need to create a 2D drawing just to have a first article inspection report. Go from your 3D model, which you already have, add the annotation on top of that, and then go directly to the inspection, the first article inspection report. And with SOLIDWORKS Inspection, you saw how it is really flexible. Either the traditional method we support with 2D drawing, either the 3D model approach with 3D annotation and PMI, we do support. And then last thing I showed was really how you can, quickly update your first article inspection if you get a revision. I showed you the example if you get a revision in the 3D world, but if you want to look at my past webinar on inspection, I actually showed this tool on the 2D world as well, on the 2D drawing. So this is really what I had for you in store today. Maybe one last thing before we sign off, and I'll let Joel do the final signing off. But next week, we're actually shifting gears, and we're going to be talking about plastics. So this week our topic was inspection. Last week we started to talk about plastics more as a designer point of view, tools we have inside of SOLIDWORKS and inside of SOLIDWORKS Plastics to understand if I'm going to get a good quality plastic injection part. Next week, we're going a step further. We're talking about mold cooling, how we can analyze the cooling of a mold, and also how we can predict warpage on plastic parts. This one is not going to be hosted by me personally. I'm going to be actually on the call, but I'm going to be assisted by one of my colleagues from Chicago, Jeff Osman. He's going to be connecting, and he's going to be presenting these advanced set of tools. And we're going to do that on the 20th at 11 o'clock. Again, if you're interested, just snap a picture of that QR code, and you'll get the link to register for this session. If, again, you don't have the time to capture the code or to get the link, just send either myself or Joel an email, and we'll be happy to share the information with you. On that, Joel, I'll simply leave you to sign off.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michel. That was great information. 2 great products now talking to each other, enhancing what you can do, either an inspection on its own or how you can carry your 3D model even further into MBD. Start thinking about how that can affect your business and how that could simplify life. A lot of things to think about in this, especially when MBD is concerned. A lot less to think about when it's inspection. If you're doing reports, inspection is a no-brainer. So if that wasn't clear, lots of different ideas on how to get more information. One was the recordings of the videos that we did last year. A great way to get more information on inspection and on MBD. You will get a recording of this video so that you can see it again, share it if you want. And of course, there are your resellers, that are your local branch, local people there to help you. So please reach out to them or myself or Michelle. We're all somewhat local, so we can get you some information either by web or connect you back with your reseller to get more details, more pertinent maybe to you, how this applies to your company. Have that discussion more personally with your enterprise. So take that next step if you want some more information. Either way, we appreciate you being on the call, learning more about our solutions at SOLIDWORKS. We hope to see you on more of our calls, and if anybody put any questions in the chat, be sure that Michelle will get back to you afterwards. We'll be happy to get you some more information that way as well. So thank you very much for joining us. Have a great day and have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
All right. Thank you.